This video is for every single non-religious Jew in the world. Very special, important message for you. We find ourselves in extremely difficult times. Who am I to be speaking to the non-religious Jews of the world? The answer is I used to be one. You see, I wasn't always religious. I didn't always have a beard, have a kippah. Maybe you saw my movie called Orthodox. Maybe you didn't. But I just want to reintroduce myself for people who have not been following me. My name is Beryl Solomon, and I used to be in the nightclub business. I don't want to talk about all the bad things that I used to do. I only want to talk about the good things. But let's just say I experienced the other side of the world more than you could ever imagine. I experienced the depth of hell that seem like fun. I'll never say, by the way, I'll never say that nightclubs are not fun. I'll never say that partying is not fun and girls aren't fun and all these things aren't fun. But it came to a point where the the fame and the fortune and the fast life and all that stuff came to a point where it left me feeling really meaningless a lot of mornings when I woke up. Some mornings I woke up, I didn't even know what I had done the night before. Those were some of the scariest mornings, and I had to piece together from stories from friends, or even worse, from pictures or videos from the next day. And at a certain point in my life, when I was about 21 years old, I'm 35 now, when I was about 21 years old, I decided that I had hit rock bottom and I needed a different way to live. And in my mind, really, Judaism was the last thing on my mind. And by the way, this all has to do with Israel and what we could do and what you could do, and this will all make sense by the end. So please stick to the end of this video because it's all going to start to make sense and it's all going to become clear. What's going on in Israel right now is will become clear from the lens of this conversation. So please stick with me. I decided at 21 years old, I made a reality show about my business, and I was working with big celebrities, and Drake was one of the biggest celebrities that I'd worked with. Like I said, I have a movie out called Orthodox. You could go check it out. Drake is in the movie, and I would bring big celebrities to nightclubs. And I made this video one day, this reality show. I made a pilot for the reality show, pilot episode, and I went to go air it in front of thousands of people at a nightclub, movie TV networks that were there to scout to see if they were going to pick up the show. And as I saw myself on the big screen standing for drugs, sex, and rock and roll, I said to myself, you know what? There's got to be a better way to live. And I was ashamed and embarrassed about what I was promoting to the world. And I remember walking out of the reality show premiere. I found the nearest exit, and I didn't even tell anybody. None of the organizers, the club owners, my partners, my friends, nobody. And I walked out of the event, and I hailed a cab, and I went home. And I closed my door, and I closed my phone for days. And I was reevaluating my life and what I stood for. And in my mind, Judaism was not the first thing that came to mind. It wasn't like, oh, I want to live a different way, and therefore I'm going to try I'm going to try Judaism. No, in my mind, Judaism was false, because I had went to Jewish schools my whole life. I had went to non-religious Jewish schools, secular Jewish schools my whole life, and in my mind, it was all not true because none of my teachers kept, or practiced Judaism. None of them put on tefillin, kept kosher, kept Shabbat. So in my mind, I thought that they had all done their research, and I thought that Judaism was a complete farce. And I started to look for a different way to live, and I went to churches, I went to mosques, I went to Buddhist ashrams, I went to interfaith chapels, and none of it really, satiated my hunger, what I was truly looking for. And one day somebody told me, go to synagogue. Not somebody, my mother told me go to synagogue. I told her actually that I wanted to go to a Buddhist monastery in India. And she had said to me, before you go to a Buddhist monastery, go to synagogue. So I listened. I walked into synagogue. I hadn't been to a synagogue in so many years, and I walked in, and I remember feeling at home. I remember feeling at peace, like, wow, this is where I belong. And I went back the next weekend, and I went back the weekend after that, and I kept on going back. And one of the people that was there, he was the rabbi, and he would talk to me. And I remember one day I was sitting with him, and he was teaching a class, and he said the name Hashem. Hashem is Hebrew for God. And I remember I had not heard the word Hashem for so many years. And when he said the word Hashem, I was like, oh my gosh, Hashem. I remember learning about him when I was a kid. And I remember how much peace and tranquility and comfort the name Hashem had given to me. And I started learning and growing, and the Torah is so beautiful. The Torah is so rich. And it gave me such deep insights into where I wanted to go, and it gave me deep insights into world events, and it was so relevant. I remember sitting one night. I was at a Passover dinner when I was first becoming religious, and I remember I was really taking the Seder very seriously, and I was talking about what happened in Egypt to the Jews and how God took us out with an outstretched arm. And somebody at the table looks at me and said, like, what are you talking about? If it happened, it happened 3,000 years ago. And like, let's get on with life. Barack Obama had just become president at the time, and Jay-Z had just married Beyonce at the time, and there was all kinds of interesting gossip, and the conversation turned to that, and me talking about Egypt 3,000 years ago kind of got shut down. And then a year later, at the next Passover Seder, I'm sitting there again, talking about how the Jews left Egypt, and on the straight and narrow, still talking about the same story, the same guidance, the same everything. And the conversation around the table at that point had changed because whatever it was, Kim Kardashian married Kanye West, and whatever the gossip was at the time. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is exactly what I love about Judaism, is it's so rooted, it's so grounded. The world is so how could I say this? It's not stable. The world is not stable. If a person does not have God in their life, the world, and you have to go by the whims of the world. We saw this with COVID. We see this with everything in the news. We see this with every ideology that comes out. There's no peace. You have no peace in your heart. You have no tranquility. You have no stability because you're at the mercy of whatever the world's agenda is pushing for you at that time. And just to focus on on Passover, because we just mentioned that, everybody is scared. If I was a non-religious Jew right now, by the way, a lot of religious Jews are scared, but if I was a Jew who wasn't religious yet, and I didn't have Hashem, I didn't have God in my life, I would be so scared at what is going on in the world right now, because according to our numbers, there's only 14 million Jews in the world. There's 1.2 billion Arabs in the world, Muslims. According to the numbers, they should swallow us whole. According to nature, they should swallow us whole. There's no reason why Israel should win in a war against a billion people that want to destroy it. And unfortunately, there's plenty besides Muslims and Arabs that want to destroy Israel. Let's just call it what it is, okay? I don't think that every Muslim and Arab wants to destroy Israel, but even if it's 10%, it's still a lot. So, if I was not religious right now, if I didn't have Hashem in my life, I would be absolutely petrified. So I want to give you a little bit of comfort from a little bit of atrocity. All right? We should actually, Jewish people have the ability to learn from even atrocities. So this is not a new story. The Jewish people are not going anywhere. And let me tell you why. I have a list here of just 16 of the major times where the greatest nations of the earth rose up to destroy the Jewish people. As we say in the Passover Seder, that in every generation there's a nation that rises up and tries to destroy us. So just for fun, I'm going to give you a short list of the 16 that have tried to destroy us, and we're still here and we're not going anywhere. So here's for fun, let's go. Not for fun, there was a lot of suffering during these times, but for fun, we're only going to list 16. Number 1, the Egyptian biblical times, enslavement and oppression of Jews. Number 2, in Persia in the 5th century, Haman tried to destroy the Jews. Number 3, the Seleucid Empire in the 2nd century, King Antiochus tried to destroy the Jews, and the Maccabees ended up winning. Number 4, the Roman Empire. The Jews revolted during the Second Temple. Number 5, the Byzantine Empire in the 4th and 7th century. Number 6, the Visigoth in Spain during the 6th and 7th century tried to destroy the Jews. Number 8, the Spanish Inquisition during the 15th century. Number 9, Portugal in the 15th century, forced conversion and the persecution of Jews. 10, the Russian Empire, pogroms, discrimination, laws against Jewish communities. 11, in Poland, pogroms, discrimination against Jews. 12, Nazi Germany during the 20th century, the Holocaust, genocide. World War II. Number 13, Soviet Union during the 20th century. 14, the Arab League of Nations during various periods of time. Policies against Israel, Jewish people, discrimination. Number 15, Iran. Number 16, Arab-Israeli conflict, like we're seeing it during the 20th and 21st century, and the ongoing tensions in Israel and the Arab nation that lives within Israel. So we have survived all of these. Not only have we survived all of these, but we've thrived during all of these. You know, right now the Jewish people are hurting so much. We're really, really hurting. It's really painful. There's nights that I can't sleep with all the pain. My heart is crying. The Jewish people are mourning right now. And only 1,400 people were killed. 1,400 beautiful people. 200 hostages. During the Holocaust. And that pain seems almost insurmountable. And we've only been dealing with that pain for a few weeks now. But if you look at the Holocaust, 6 million people were murdered. Imagine, and that was over a 4, 5, 6 year period. Day in and day out, murders, entire families, villages wiped out, slaughtered. Imagine the pain that must have been felt. It must have been infinitely more. The pain must have been infinitely more because the carnage was infinitely more. And yet, the Jewish people, within such a short amount of time, I'm not talking 70 or 80 years, within 5 years, the Jewish people did not just survive, but the Jewish people thrived. The Jewish people bounced back with vigor that was stronger and greater than ever. And it's not because of all the reasons why the secular world wants to make us believe, because we're educated in the best universities, or because who knows, Nobel Prizes, who knows what they say. The Jewish people are successful not because we're smarter than anybody else, not because we're more privileged than anybody else, not because we're richer than anybody else. The Jewish people thrive, not just survive, we thrive because we are Hashem's chosen nation. Hashem chose to give Abraham, and his son Jacob. He decided that the nation of Israel was chosen to be the ambassador of God's light, the Torah, morality in this world. And as long as God exists, which is forever because he's eternal, the Jewish people will exist. So to all the non-religious Jews in the world, I have a message for you. We are an eternal people because God is protecting us. The God of Israel does not slumber or sleep. From where will our help come? It's very nice the United States sent us warships. It's very nice that President Biden, we have to thank him. We have to have what's called in Hebrew hakara tatov. We have to give thanks to him and appreciation for him showing solidarity with Israel, and Britain and all the other countries that have shown solidarity, and we thank them. But we should know that ultimately the saving of the Jewish people will come through God himself. And I have good news. We know the end of the story. Here's a spoiler alert to the end of the story. Ready? Moshiach is coming. The Messiah, what the Jewish people have been waiting for thousands of years. The footsteps of the Moshiach can be heard around the world. The operation, if you want to call it, I don't even want to call it the operation of Hamas. Let's call it what it was. The massacre of Hamas was called Storm al-Aqsa. Al-Aqsa Mosque is sitting where the first and second Beit Hamikdash, the first and second temple, stood in Jerusalem and Yerushalayim, and it is exactly where the third and final Beit Hamikdash temple will stand And this was their last ditch effort because they know, they feel it in their bones. The entire world feels it in their bones. They know what's about to come. And they tried one last ditch effort to gain control. And they think that they won, but in the big picture, obviously they failed. Because the Jewish people will only become stronger from this. The Jewish people will only become greater from this. And you might be asking yourself, what can I do? Because a lot of people are sitting at home right now and they feel frustrated that they don't know what to do. And the answer is, to all the beautiful non-religious Jews in the world, first of all, let me tell you something. There's no such thing as a Jew that's not religious. Why do we eat pomegranates on Rosh Hashanah, on the Jewish New Year? Because it says every single Jew, religious, non-religious, is filled with mitzvot, is filled with good deeds, filled with commandments from Hashem, just like there's seeds in a pomegranate. So even, I don't care if you eat pork, I don't care if you go out on Shabbat, I don't care if you do all the fun things in the world. Just know that a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. And you're probably feeling that right now. Because when Israel gets attacked, you feel it in your bones. Because your heart has an affinity towards the land of Israel. Why? Because God gave the land of Israel to your ancestors, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for an inheritance forever. So practically, what could you do? You could come a little bit closer to Hashem. Speak to Him with your own words. Don't get so sophisticated. Hashem is simple, okay? Speak to Him with your own words. Try to put on tefillin. Light a Shabbos candle. Give a little bit of tzedakah. Do an act of kindness and goodness in the world. Because a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness. And hopefully by the time you're watching this, we'll hear good news that Moshiach came, and we'll all be on our way to the land of Israel to celebrate in the Beit Hamikdash with all of our Jewish brothers. God bless. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button. And I'm hoping to bring you content like this on a more regular basis. Be well. God bless. I love you.